Here we are in computer coding, looking at how to make a different kind of game. So far, most of the games that I've been teaching people how to make involve moving things around the screen and shooting them or other aspects of that nature. But I thought, well, what if we wanted to make a mouse based game where we really just move a mouse around the screen and do something? So I thought Cookie Clicker might be a really interesting one. What I'm going for now, Cookie Clicker, of course, is, if you have never seen it before, Cookie Clicker, um, made by this guy Ortel, or however you say his name. Um, you have a cookie over here, and every time you click the cookie, yeah, you are going to get one more cookie. And then every once in a while, what you can do is you can buy an object over here, and that object will automatically, like grandma's. Okay, so now I own a grandma, so grandmas can bake cookies. So every second, my grandma, who's very fast at baking, she bakes one cookie per second. So now my cookies go up automatically. Another one they have in this game is a cursor. So now I have a mouse. I'm clicking a mouse, and every 10 seconds or so, this mouse click gives me another zero point 0.1 cookie. So it can click, but it's not as good as my click, and it takes forever to click. Of course, you buy a few of these, and notice it has achievements and all this kind of stuff. What really we're just focused on is the fact that we can click something and we can buy some things to give it automatic stuff. You can play Cookie Clicker and get more and more ideas. It actually gets very funny and very complicated. What I thought we'd do is make something like a pickle clicker game. So here I have a pickle, and I can click on that pickle, and right now I have one pickle. And when I just programmed it so that if I can get 10 pickles, I can afford a farm, and I click my little buy now button, and now I'm making my pickles per second is 1. So my pickles are going up all by themselves. And now my farm cost has gone up to 20, so I have to wait till I get some more pickles. Maybe I'll start clicking on it myself to make it go fast. And then, ooh, I want another pickle. Now I'm making 2 pickles per second, plus I can click. Now I'm making 3 pickles per second, and so on and so forth. So you keep on getting more. Now you can make it so you can buy more things that make pickles go up by faster amounts. Um, or maybe you can think of some other things that you could do with this. But that is the game that we're looking at. So what we're going to do, here's all the code, and it's not very long actually. Of course, I hope that people add more to it. Um, but here's the code to start. So if you don't want any explanation at all, go pause it and go backwards and look at the code I just gave and just type it all in, I guess. But hopefully you will learn and try to understand what it is that's going on. So I am going to assume that you can pause and go backwards and take a look at things that you don't understand and that I type too fast and stuff like that. First thing is I like to set up the constants of the game. So things like, let's create a height and a width so that when we draw our frame on the screen, we give it a cool name like pickles. Then we have a width and a height down here, right? I always like to do that. That comes in handy when we need to do some math later to figure out how to put things on the right spots on the page. And then I just have a basic draw function, and then I start the frame. So the very first thing that we're going to want to do is load up some graphics. Now for that, I am going to cheat and just copy what I have here, and then I'll explain them. And what I would suggest is I'll give you 2 choices of what you want to do, because it's a little annoying to type like this, right? So what you could do is you can search for your own pickle and search for your own button and then put those in. So that's one thing that you could do. I guess the other thing you could do is pause this and go ahead and start typing this whole thing out. Um, or maybe you can just try to match up the ones that I use when the game plays from what I had before and find them and copy and paste them. The important thing is this: I've got a pickle image. Remember that every time I do an image, it needs to have a width and a height. So the image I found was 320. I went ahead because this game doesn't have any moving parts except for the numbers. I went ahead and said, okay, right away I know I want my pickle in the middle of the screen. So I want him to be a width divided by 2, height divided by 2, so he shows up in the middle of the page. I say page sometimes, I don't know why. And then the same thing with my button. My button, even though it's a tiny button, for some reason the original image was 400 by 400 with a lot of blank space. That makes it annoying later on, but it's the best thing I had. And then I played around and I decided I wanted my button 700 over and 300 down. So again, I'm just declaring these things right away at the beginning so that you know, they're not going to move around on the screen, so I can just say that's where they go. So the first thing I need to do once I get those is I just need to draw them. And drawing images on the screen is not the most pleasant of tasks. What I try to do is I try to say it kind of to myself every time I want to draw something. So I want to draw a pickle. The first thing that Code Sculptor wants to know when I draw a pickle is what is the center point of the pickle so it knows where to place it on the screen because it always draws it from the center. So the center point of my pickle is my pickle's width divided by 2 and my pickle's height divided by 2. So that's my center of the pickle. Then it says, okay, well, how wide and how high is your pickle in the first place? So, well, it's my pickle's width and my pickle's height. Then it says, well, where do you want to place this pickle? And I say my x value and my y value. And then finally, I might put it on the next line just so you can read it, but you don't have to do this. The last thing is, how big do we want the pickle to appear on the screen? So what you'll notice, this 320, do I want it to be a full size? Because if I want it full size, I can just say pickle width and pickle height, and there we go. One more parentheses to end the very first parentheses. And then again, this is the center point of the pickle, the height and width of the pickle, the center point I want to draw the pickle on the screen, and the height and width that I want to draw on the screen. So I got all those pieces. I should be able to hit play and get a pickle. And this pickle I found had this nice little shadow in it. It's pretty cool. So we have that. We're not going to use the button for a little while, but we might as well go ahead and get this over with. In fact, if you want to, I don't know if it'll be any faster or not, but it might make sense to go through and just say, okay, I have a button, and everywhere where I had the word pickle, I'm just going to put the word button. Maybe I could even copy and paste that. So remember, we said our button should be 700 over 300 down. So I say play, and there we go. There's the button. That's its original size. And that's obviously way too big for a button. So the only thing we have to change is this last item is the width and the height of the button. And so what I was playing around with is, well, what if we took 400 is the original width and height. So hey, let's divide that by 4. That means it would be 100 by 100, right? That seems reasonable. That's not bad. That's not bad. You could decide maybe after playing around with it that, I could use it a little smaller than that even. Maybe now you can barely read it. So I think dividing by 4 seems fair. The other things that we need on the screen are the text, right? So we have to have, how many pickles do we have? That's like the information that we need to run this thing. So I'm going to put those first up here. We just say draw text. And again, we almost, if you want to go into the docs, we'll see how long it takes to load. And graphics, and on the canvas, I want to draw text. This can remind me how to do it. What we want is, what do we want to draw on the screen? Where do we want to draw it? How big do we want the text to be? What color do we want the text to be? And then you can theoretically change the font. I don't find that that works very well in Code Sculptor, so I tend not to worry about that. So what do we want to say on the screen? Well, we want to say pickles. And then we're gonna change something right here, but for right now we're just gonna say pickles. And then where do we want that word pickles to be on the screen? Kind of towards the top of the page, 50, 50 maybe. What size do we want the word pickles to be? Well, I want it pretty big. And what color do we want it to be? Well, I want it to be some color that's associated with pickles. Seems like pickles are kind of greenish yellow. So I'll just choose yellow for right now. So I do those 4 things. Again, I hit play. I'll give you a second to pause if you want to pause it and write those things down. So there we go, pickles. Now we need a number to show up here right next to pickles. And that would be the number of pickles we have. So we're starting to get into variables. Before we do that, let's just do one more. And that would be our pickles per second. I think that that's important to know. In Cookie Clicker, ooh, my cookies are still moving up. Right here, it just says it like, this is how many cookies I have, and then per second, how many cookies I'm earning. So you could redo it to look at more like that. Like, what if I want the number first, and then I want the per second right underneath it? Mine, I'm going to go with over on the other side of the screen. So if this is 50 over, I just need something kind of way over on the other side. And maybe this one I want to make green instead of yellow. Doesn't really matter, right? Pickles per second. Ooh, that doesn't give me a lot of room over here in case the number is big. So maybe 600 would be better. But that's what we want. We want those things all showing up on the screen. So we're good. We got our draw kind of figured out already, which sometimes is the hardest part of the game. So now we're ready to start thinking about our variables. So we're going to go up here. We're going to declare some variables. First of all, we just need to know how many pickles do we own. And you might think about it, unless you want to own a half a pickle, you probably want to start at 0. And then we want our pickles per second, which we also want to be 0. I'm going to say 0.0 because in Cookie Clicker, you can earn fractions of cookies. Although you don't really get the cookie until it's a whole cookie. And I don't know whether I'll end up using that or not, but it just feels official to have a 0.0. And while we're at it, 2 more variables that we'll come into. Now, you can think, what kinds of machines or objects would people buy to generate their pickles? In Cookie Clicker, we had grandmas. In fact, pretty soon here, I'll be able to earn my first farm. And you'll see that the farms are very expensive, right? Like $1,100 I can buy my first farm. And so I buy it, and I got myself a farm, and that made a lot of cookies. So now my numbers are going way up. They also give you a little screen here that shows you farms and stuff like that. Notice that my cost went up too, 1,265. So every time you buy it, it goes up by a little bit. In other words, the cost of the farm is a variable. So you want to think, do you want farms? Do you want grandmas? I don't know if you can think of you know, maybe you want Peter because Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. I don't know. Um, so what, pipers? I'm gonna say farms because I figure you got to grow pickles somewhere. Um, so I'm gonna make that one. But if you can come up with 5 of them and make them all different costs and stuff like that, that would be awesome. And my farm costs, I'm gonna start by saying my first farm is gonna cost me 10. I'm not gonna make it 1,000 because that's gonna take forever. This is a variable because when they buy a farm, then we got to make this more expensive, right? Okay, so what we have is we have all the basics, but what we really need is we need the ability to make a mouse actually click. And in order to do that, I think I'll give you a new video so that you can kind of focus on that. But here we have the basics set up for us. So I'm going to stop the video, and you can pick this right up and get ready to do the next steps.